But if we now only go in a circle, then we will stay where we are, not move forward. And that isn't good enough. So I think the strategy international for the Tamil community has been an excellent one politically. But I think now it needs to develop, and it needs to move with a new additional direction to reinvigorate itself. And you are the key to it. Your voices, your campaigning, and your ability, which has been very proven, to hold politicians in this country very politely, but very clearly to account to our responsibilities to be supporting you. So it's a pleasure to be with you, and I think this is an important event. Good luck in the deliberations and in strengthening the strategy.
Thank you very much, Lord John Mann, for sharing your experiences with Sri Lanka. And I think it's very important what you said about developing a new strategy moving forward. We've had this government in power for 13 years, and I think regardless of what party you are, the genocide of Tamils and the issue that's going on in Sri Lanka should be non-partisan. It should be something that everyone can get involved in, because we should all believe in human rights and to get the justice for Tamils. I would like to next welcome the Right Honourable Mr. John McDonnell. He's the Member of Parliament for Hayes and Harlington. He has served his constituents since 1997, and he was the Shadow Chancellor from 2015 to 2022. He is also the Vice Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Tamils, and he is a great vocal supporter of the Tamil people, and we would invite him to speak for a few minutes, if that's possible, please.
Thank you. First of all, apologies, I have to leave straight away.
No worries.
Some difficulty finding you because of the shifted rooms, which I now understand happened. Straightforwardly from me, and I just repeat the conversation we've had more recently. We've almost, exactly as John has said, there'll be a general election within the next, realistically, 15 months or so, most probably October of next year. So we've got to use this period again to make this a general election issue. In the way in the past, before every general election, the Tamil community has been incredibly effective in terms of lobbying MPs and parliamentary candidates to secure commitments from them. And I don't think we should underestimate the scale of the political influence that the Tamil community can exert across the country, but in certain key constituencies as well. And so therefore we should use that influence, I think, now effectively during this coming period. What we've done in the past is produced a short manifesto of issues that had to be addressed. We've circulated letters to all parliamentary candidates, secure commitments, often by Tamils meeting them face to face, and in that way building up a wave of support as we go into that general election. There will be a change of government. I think there'll be a Labour government. I'm not sure what sort of majority there is. I'm hoping a large one, obviously. But we need to get that commitment, as you say, Chair, on a cross-party basis if we can as we go into that election. So it's up to us now to start doing the work again, that individual lobbying, face-to-face, secure the commitments. The issue, I think, that resonates with many members of Parliament, and it will do with candidates as well, is the scale of the war crimes that have been committed, the way in which crimes are being committed with impunity, and there has been no accountability. And so therefore there is an onus, there's an onus particularly on the UK as well because of its colonial past and the relationship in the past, but there's an onus upon the international community to act on this and to bring about that end of impunity, but access to real accountability, and that must be through the International Criminal Court, so we bring people to book. The other issue that we've raised before is that we have argued time and time again for sanctions to be used against those individuals that we know have perpetrated human rights abuses. And we now have, as a result of pressure in both Houses of Commons and Lords, We do now have the Magnitsky clause inserted into legislation, which enables this government then to take action against those individuals who we now have identified as human rights abusers, so we hit them particularly financially through their operation within this country with regard to the City of London investments, etc. So these are simple demands that we can get people to accede to, so that when we, after that election, whoever's in government, right, or the Labour government, can implement these measures. I think it will send a real message out to the whole Tamil community that we have the potential of a real change here. I also say that we've been arguing this for the Tamil community, but this campaign has inspired others as well, and if we can succeed in this, in bringing about accountability for human rights abuses and, as we've said, genocide, if we can bring about and have success here, it will strengthen those in other areas of the globe who are equally standing up for human rights and are equally trying to expose the abuse of human rights and what's gone on, and the accountability of those politicians in particular who make these decisions. So I think it's one of the most significant campaigns that we have now, and we've got this period of time, this window of opportunity to transform this into something quite significant. Obviously we'll do all we can, those of us that work for the all-party group, and we'll give all the support that we possibly can. I make my apologies now, I'm sorry I have to go into this chair, otherwise I'm going to be accused of being late yet again. Okay. Yes.
Thank you so much. Just to kind of pick up on what you said about sanctions, I think it's absolutely appalling that this government's been in power for 13 years, and as the leader of the Human Rights Council on Sri Lanka, no sanctions have been applied on any perpetrators, but the United States and Canada have sanctioned perpetrators who were identified in the UN OISL report. So I think next year when the elections come up, I'm hoping for a Labour government, and I hope when we do have that new Labour government that they will sanction these perpetrators. But if we don't have that change, I hope that the existing government will look into what other countries are doing, will look at those credibly accused human rights abusers and sanction them. I would now like to pass you on to Martin Day, MP from the Scottish National Party. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
No, it's my pleasure to come along and show support and the cross-party consensus that's there in this House for human rights. We need to raise the profile. The more I've learned about the situation that Tamils have faced, the more appalled I am. And I think everybody here obviously feels the same, but it's how do we get that message out to people who haven't yet woken up to what's been happening, or has happened and is still happening. We need to have more pressure on our parliamentary colleagues, and I think we all have to do a bit more on that to get higher up the political agenda, which I'm encouraged by the comments I've heard from other members today on a similar theme. So I'm here to show my support. Anything I can do to help, be assured that I will do so, and we just need to keep the pressure on and see a result. But the human rights atrocities are, and we've got to raise public awareness as well as political awareness to bring the political pressure.
Thank you so much, Martin. Thank you. We had a number of other MPs that were lined up to speak, but there's been an emergency vote in the House of Commons, and so Teresa Villiers, who is an MP, she sent us a video to play, but unfortunately I don't think the TV's working, so I'm just going to quickly read out to us what she was going to say in the video. Teresa Villiers has been a long-time supporter of the Tamil community. She's come out to the United Nations Human Rights Council with British Tamils Forum on several occasions. So this is what she was going to say. I'm so sorry I can't be with you today, but an important debate has cropped up in the parliamentary agenda which I have to attend. But I'm sure that it will be a great meeting with Mr. Annamalai from the BJP from Tamil Nadu State. I warmly welcome him. I know that fostering links between the Tamil community and the diaspora around the world and in India and in Sri Lanka is very important, particularly because we share the common goal of justice for Tamil victims of human rights abuses and atrocities during the Sri Lankan Civil War. That's a campaign that I will continue to fight on behalf of my British Tamil constituents. I wish you well with this event, and I'm sure Lord John Mann will be a very able host. So thank you to Teresa Villiers for passing on those videos, and her apologies for not being here. I will now pass you on to our special guest that I'm sure that we're all here to listen to. to Shri Annamalai Avl. He's the president of the Tamil Nadu state of BJP, the current ruling party in India.
Good evening to everybody. Councillor Madam Sharmila, who is very instrumental in getting us all together here, and friends from the British Tamil Forum, BTF, and especially its General Secretary, Shri Ravi Kumar Ji, and very, very respected British parliamentarians, Lord John Mann, Right Honourable John MacDonald Ji, the MP from Scottish National Party, Sri Martin Day Ji, and all eminent members who have come as part of the Sangamam team from Tamil Nadu, and the members of civil society. I'll take some time initially to just trace the 1500-year civilizational journey that the Elam Tamils and Tamilians from India we enjoyed. Pattinapalai, very ancient text in Tamil Nadu, written in Tamil 1400 years back. It uses a phrase called Eelath Unavum Kalagathu Akkamum, where we talk about the food from Elam, from the northeast part of Sri Lanka, the food coming to a port in Pumbuhar. And 1400 years back, a text in Tamil Nadu, in Tamil, mentions it. Again, if we go back to 9th and 10th centuries, which is 1000 years before, the reign of Rajaraja Chola and Rajendra Cholan, we had very close connections to Elam Tamils and Tamil Nadu. And if I go one step further again, the modern Vishwaguru, Swami Vivekananda, after his very historic Chicago speech, instead of coming to India first, he chose to go to Sri Lanka first in 1897. He addressed the Jaffna Hindu College about the culture, the close connection that Sri Lanka and India enjoys, and specifically the Elam Tamils and Tamilians enjoy. And the second stop, he came to India. Then, what happened very unfortunately post 1947 is a very unfortunate thing. This issue is not a one-year issue or not a decade-old issue. It's almost a 85-year-old issue. When Sri Lanka got independence, we all know the Tamils of Sri Lanka, the north and eastern part of Sri Lanka, they had a very disproportionate number in civil service, in judiciary, in business. Only because it was a very fair competition, the Tamil Elam friends and brothers, they enjoyed a very disproportionate presence, only because of a merit-based competition. 1948, the new country of Sri Lanka brought an amendment to the Citizenship Act, thereby rendering millions of Tamils overnight stateless and homeless. That issue took about almost 2 decades in the Sastri time through the Sastri Pact to get solved. And right now as we speak, there are millions of our friends Sri Lankan Tamils settled in parts of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka because of the Sastri Pact, when India agreed to take the stateless Tamils back to our country. Then if we go one step further, after the Civil War, specifically the 1987, the Indo-Sri Lankan occurred, for which India is supposed to be a guarantor of its implementation in full letter and spirit, and thereby agreeing to whatever our Prime Minister in 2017 spoke to Sri Lankan, they combined both the houses. Then if you go one step further, 2009 was a very terrible year for everybody. As a politician in Tamil Nadu, I keep blaming the then central government in 2009 for failing to do its duty, for failing to be the country which could have stopped its war, prevented killing of millions of people, which India failed to do in 2009. Post 2014, when our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji started coming in, that is the time we are seeing a very new hope, which is a continuity of this thousands of year-old civilizational continuity we have. Our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji was the first Indian politician to use the word called civilizational twins. He said India and Sri Lanka are sisters from the same mother. And it is not a question of a big brother and a small country next to each other. This is not a question of India trying its strategy over Sri Lanka to win over the hearts. Our Prime Minister was the first politician in India to use the word called civilizational twins, whereby we have a historic duty to solve the issues in Sri Lanka, to play an active role to make sure, especially the Tamils in the northeastern part, they go back to how they were 100 years before. If I can trace back the last 9 years of what India was able to do inside Sri Lanka, and millions of rupees of money poured into Sri Lanka, just to make sure the northeastern part of Sri Lanka gets stabilized. As we speak now, 51,000 houses built by the Indian government in the northeast and in the central province of Sri Lanka, so that people have a house to live. And more importantly, post that, India, just now we have opened the cultural center in Jaffna, at a cost of 120 crore Indian rupee, and which the Prime Minister believes the rich culture of Jaffna should get preserved through that center, whereby even 1000 years from now, the richness of Jaffna should go to the next generation also. The rail link from Colombo to Jaffna, again India got in. And Prime Minister firmly believes to solve the problem in Sri Lanka, the people-to-people contact needs to be strengthened. After 1987, the Accord, and before that, after the unfortunate cyclone that we got, whereby the railroad got washed away, almost 25 years there was very little human people-to-people interaction between Tamil Nadu and the northeastern part of Sri Lanka. Anybody has to go to Sri Lanka, you have to go to Colombo, then travel about 6-7 hours to go to northeast, which is very culturally connected to you. In the last 3-4 years, India has made very major strides there. The Jaffna Palali airport got built with a soft loan given by India. The flights were operating. During the COVID time, the flights got stopped. Again, India put pressure, the flights got restarted again now. And India is very clear, the port facility of Kanakes and Durai, especially the northern part of Sri Lanka, has to improve again, so that we operate passenger ships between Karaikal, Chennai and Ramanathapuram to Pamban. So these are all areas the Prime Minister is focusing, where people-to-people contact between India and Sri Lanka gets established, not through Colombo, but directly to the northeastern part of Sri Lanka. As we speak now, the Kanakes and Durai port thing is almost through. On any point of time, we expect the first passenger ship to sail from Karaikal to Kanakes and Durai, which sir was mentioning that he made it as an agenda point. The flights are flying from Chennai daily to Palali airport, where lot of Tamils from Tamil Nadu, lot of Tamils from the Eelams, they both fly to different parts of each other. And more than that, in the Sri Lanka debt trap crisis that happened in the last 1.5 years, very, very unfortunate. India fulfilled its duty, civilizational duty, by supporting Sri Lanka with about $3.8 billion of soft loans, 40,000 metric ton of diesel and petrol, sending vegetables, critical supplies of medicine, where India literally stabilized Sri Lanka from collapsing. So this is the historic arc I wanted to trace. I had the huge privilege of stepping into the very sacred land, the Elam land in the northeastern part of Sri Lanka. I met to come across a culture that is so vibrant, that is brilliant, that is so rooted. I met to come across a culture like how Tamil Eelams are. We all believe in this age and time, if we are not solving this problem now, we are not going to solve this problem anytime more in the future. And before getting into the strategic part and what India is doing now, what we foresee that will happen in the next 5 to 10 years, I would like to pinpoint 4 or 5 issues of concern that I have seen during my visit to the Northeast. I have observed the educational standards of the Northeastern part have drastically fallen down. The same area 10-15 years before, the students, the Tamil Elam students from the Northeastern part, who are able to top most of the Sri Lankan examinations, the last 3-4 years of central examinations, they seem to fare very poorly and they are in the bottom percentile. This I believe is very, very dangerous. And any political solution, when we do it now or in the future, it has to have a very able workforce. It has to have very educationally sound people. This I believe is a very critical area of concern. The second area of concern I see in the north and the east, the alarming rate of fall in the Hindu population. The Hindu population is falling down drastically. In fact, I use the word called alarmingly in the northern and eastern part of Sri Lanka, which I believe is a severe case of concern, because this demographic change is going to adversely affect the culture of that area in decades to come. The third issue I believe is the issue of archaeological sites. The Northeast continues to enjoy 1,000 plus years of its own unique culture and distinct identity. Of late we see the Buddhist archaeological sites cropping in, whereby there is a cause of tension between the Elam Tamils and the Buddhists there because of the archaeological issues that I believe needs to be sorted out for any lasting peace to come there and solution to be permanent in the coming decade or so. Fourth one, I would have seen the Sri Lankan army occupying agricultural lands in the northeastern part of Sri Lanka, and which are very fertile lands, and a lot of army camps and everything being established there. And the fifth issue, I have seen the lack of unity among the Tamil political parties both in the northern and the eastern part, where you individually interact with the Tamil political leaders. Everybody seems to have their own solution, but they don't seem to have a combined solution where they can sit at the table. We can talk everywhere across the country, across the world, but to have a lasting solution, it is very important the Tamil parties of the Northeast, they come to a common platform. We also had the opportunity to take it to the Sri Lankan side during our visit to the Jaffna, including to the Sri Lankan Prime Minister as well. about the issues of the falling educational standards, the issues of the changing demographic nature, the falling of Hindu population there, and more importantly, the archaeological issues. I am very happy recently, just about a fortnight back, the Sri Lankan government has appointed a new governor to the eastern province who happens to be a Tamil, from the Malayaga part of Sri Lanka, from the central province, Mr. Sendil Tondaiman, who happens to be a governor. I believe with this appointment, many of the pressing issues, including the archaeological problem, will come to a solution is our belief. And more than that, India is also getting into the cultural side in the northeastern part. The temple Tirukethiswaram, which is 1400 years old, which is sung in the very ancient Tamil epic called Devara, which we, India, helped to renovate it. The Kumbhavishekam is done. That is also sending a lot of Tamils from Tamil Nadu to go to Tirukethiswaram. We believe in the coming years, strengthening of people-to-people contact is going to put pressure on the local politicians to find a lasting solution. I'm sure the British parliamentarians, the honourable members will understand. Sri Lankan constitution is a very unique constitution. Out of the 225 MPs in the Sri Lankan constitution, 196 are elected directly by the public. And the rest 29 are elected from the national list. Meaning, a powerful politician in Sri Lanka can get defeated in an election. Still, he can get into the parliament through the national list by virtue of the party getting a significant percentage of votes. So what I'm trying to convey is we cannot count any single politician out of Sri Lanka. Every single politician who has governed in the last 30-40 years, he or she exercised a significant, considerable amount of influence in Sri Lankan politics. So countries like India, which are very, very close to Sri Lanka, we have to engage every single politician there. Politicians of opposite sides, previous presidents, former prime ministers, because you cannot count anybody out in the way the Sri Lankan parliamentary democracy is designed. That is why the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji is the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Jaffna. We say we are 1400 years old of civilizational continuity. But it is the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji who made an effort to visit Jaffna for the first time after Sri Lanka got independence in 1948. And the Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji made an effort to visit the central province, again the first Prime Minister to do it. And the Honorable Prime Minister has said in very clear and categorical terms that the lasting solution for Sri Lanka is the complete and full implementation of Article 13, and India stands guaranteed to the accord signed in 1987 between the two governments. Under External Affairs Minister Mr. Jaishankar, as late in 2023, a couple of months back, when he met the Sri Lankan Prime Minister also, India has reiterated that Article 13, the complete implementation is also expected. But we all know in the era of power politics, the China model of debt trap, the string of pearls theory, the China's heavy investment inside Sri Lanka, right from Hambantota to Colombo to the northeastern part, right up to creating of new ports there. There is also a strategic objective for countries like India. And one is a civilizational tune. We believe it is our moral responsibility to stand with our brothers and sisters there to find a solution to it. At the same time, we are also very careful. Sri Lanka should not get into the global high power politics, whereby it behaves like a pawn in a chessboard, where the people will ultimately suffer. With this, I really thank the British Tamil Forum. And one thing I can assure on behalf of our party, and we have been very vociferous over the last 2 years, and we have been putting pressure on our own government, including a delegation from our party in Tamil Nadu, where we happens to be the ruling party in India. We have given a delegation on behalf of Tamil Nadu BJP. We have given a representation to our External Affairs Minister that Article 13 has to be implemented in a speedy fashion. No more delay is unacceptable to the people of Tamil Nadu, because we believe after what happened in 2009, where India also played a direct part, where India would have easily stopped it, it is important that India solves it now. So we completely agree with many of the things that you have said. At the same time, coming from India, we are also very careful, because we have to work across the political parties. We have to develop a degree of trust, because the borders between both the countries is just 25 kilometers away. And every day the fishermen from Tamil Nadu get arrested in the northeastern part of Sri Lanka. As we speak now, 22 of our fishermen from Tamil Nadu are in Sri Lankan jails, arrested 2 days back for getting into Sri Lankan waters. So we are also very careful, very cognizant of it. And we also believe forums like British Tamil Forum, with the support of the honourable members of parliament here, with the support of the global civil society, you are exerting the pressure that is supposed to be exerted. But we are very confident. We stand with you. We also need a solution. We want them to live in peace. We don't want this great culture to get disintegrated. with the falling levels of educational standard is an alarming cause. When you find the solution 5 years from now, we should have people there. We should have quality of people there. We should have good quality of educated people there to build back the economy, which we believe right now is not happening. That is why parallelly also the Indian ambassador, Mr. Gopal Bagle, and all our leaders there present in the Indian embassy, we are urging the Indian corporates to go and set shops in the northeastern part of Sri Lanka, create employment, bring a degree of stabilization there. With this, I end my speech. I thank the opportunity given by BTF to come here to the seat of, I think this place ruled 3/4 of the world just about 100 years back. So it's a privilege coming here and addressing the crowd and especially talking to our British parliamentarians. We'll be very happy to take any of your questions and clarify. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to questions and answers. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to raise your hands and we'll go around the room.
Someone elaborate on the Article 13, what it is. What exactly?
You want to say, sir, or you want me to answer?
Article 13, that Shri Annamalai is mentioned. What exactly is it? I just wanted to...
The Article 13, the original constitution of Sri Lanka, which came into force after it got independence in 1948. It was there for a long time. The constitution of Sri Lanka was also governing the methodology of citizenship, which was amended in 1948, whereby millions of Tamils, they were made stateless and homeless. So 1987, at the peak of civil war that was happening, where a lot of people are getting killed, from the Indian side, our Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi ji, and from the Sri Lankan side, the Sri Lankan President, they signed the Indo-Sri Lankan Accord in the year 1987, whereby a very crucial amendment called Article 13 amendment came into the original Sri Lankan Constitution. So what does it say? It talks about very specifically the northern and the eastern parts. It talks about a federal democratic government. It talks about the powers being distributed at the federal levels, including police, including revenue, including powers of land. It also talks about a combined administrative unit of North and East and a possible referendum. So, in the amended Article 13, India stands as a guarantor for the implementation of Article 13, 1987, the amendment that came. So, what happened post that is unfortunate. So, we are about 38 years now after 1987. So, which was not fully implemented. Elections happened later. The chief ministers got elected to the respective, the northern part and the eastern part. But the powers of finance, the powers of land, the powers of police were not given from the central government to the provincial areas. Thereby, in letter and spirit, this was not fully implemented. So what India is asking now, especially our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, very vociferously over the last 3-4 years, is that India is expecting Sri Lanka to implement Article 13 at the earliest in its letter and spirit, so that there is a proper devolution of power and a federal polity in a democracy is possible.
Thank you. That's very enlightening, and I think that's very important from your strategy. Create a strategy for this.
Can I add a few words to Shri Annamalai Avl's? As I said, in 1987 there was an accord, bilateral accord. That is the only accord, international accord that proposed some kind of solution for the ethnic conflict. Actually, the original Indo-Lanka Accord have certain points that articulates well about the habitation of the Northeast, traditional homeland of Tamils. Then again, it gives importance of the need for the resettlement of Tamils who fled from the region. And some of the issues which are pertinent to the Tamil victims in the traditional homeland. That was the bilateral agreement between two countries. Soon after that, based on the Indo-Lanka Accord, J.R. Javadana, the then President of Sri Lanka, created 13th Amendment as a solution to the conflict. In our view, we think the letter and spirit enshrined in the Indo-Lanka Accord is not fully complied in the 13th Amendment. That is one. Two, the time changes. In 1987, the influence of globalization is very less. We are now, after 35 years, all the global communities, all the villages are connected together, and they somehow trade, somehow produce, manufacture, export and import. So that requires powers for the local bodies, such as northern, eastern provinces, to develop their region by directly connecting to the institutions controlling this financial and other matters. So, because of the time, 35 years of time variation, we are in a different world. So, as a starting point, as Shri Annamalai Avl told, India is trying to get the full implementation of 13th Amendment. India wants to see some progress in the northern eastern provinces. But we propose India and the UK. Even we just about an hour ago, we finished a meeting, very constructive meeting with the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, where we proposed the interim administration for the northern east. Only the northern province and eastern provinces were completely damaged by the war. And ever since the end of the post-war period, there's no comprehensive needs assessment were taken. Sri Lanka is actually blocking such project, so that the next step will be to plan and execute a proper rehabilitation, reconstruction, resettlement program. So what the Tamils are enduring now is a post-war trauma. Besides the militarization and other human rights violations, the interim administration with adequate powers as a temporary measure before arriving at a political solution. An interim administration is what we are looking for. We think the government of India, the UK, the USA can work together to bring the people who fled from the region, fled to India, fled to the south of Sri Lanka, to be resettled, and the work, a speedy action to be taken for the resettlement of the northern east. Thank you.
One question. Okay, Prachanala.
இந்த நாட்டில் அகதி அந்தஸ்து ஏற்கப்பட்டது, எல்லா உரிமைகளும் தரப்பட்டது. இன்னைக்கு உதாரணத்துக்கு தமிழ்நாடும் அதில் அப்பா இந்த நாட்டில் அகதி அந்தஸ்து. ஆனால் அவர் இந்த நாட்டில் எல்லா உரிமைகளுக்கு அவர் சொல்றாரு. ஆனால் இந்தியாவில் எல்லா மக்கள் அகதியாவது அவைகளுக்கு இந்திய அரசாங்கம் எந்த உரிமையும் அவர்களுக்கு உயர்கல்வி கூட மறக்கப்பட்டது. அவர்களுக்கு அடிப்படையான எந்த உரிமைகளும் வழங்கப்படுகிறது. இது சம்பந்தமாக பாரதிய ஜனதா கட்சி அல்லது இந்திய அரசாங்கம் என்ன முடிவெடுக்கும்? அல்லது அவர்கள் அந்த உரிமையை கொடுத்தீங்களா?
Thank you. I'll translate. So the question was that most of the Tamil people in this room have come to the UK as refugees. So the question was, unfortunately in India, Tamil refugees that have gone, they haven't been given any refugee status and they don't have the rights. So if you would want to comment on that question.
In Tamil or in English?
It's up to you. In English is fine.
We would understand after 1948 when the amendment to the constitution came about, when millions of Tamils were rendered homeless and stateless there. India during the 1960s, during the Shastriji's time, agreed to take back Sri Lankan Tamils back into our country with a set of guarantees. So accordingly, the first set of Sri Lankan Tamils who came in were accommodated in parts of Gudalur in Tamil Nadu, Wayanad in Kerala, and Sulya in Karnataka. Special corporations were created for that, including agencies like Tanti, by which especially the Malayalam Tamils who came in because of that pact, they were given employment opportunities, given houses, so that they get integrated into the Indian society completely. Now the gentleman is asking about the second part, where thousands of Sri Lankan Tamils, mostly from the northeastern side, who entered into our country to flee from the civil war that is happening, so technically illegally, just to save themselves, save their families from the civil war that was on in the northeastern part. Now all the people who have entered India were housed in camps in different parts of Tamil Nadu, including Tiruchi, Kallakurichi, Mantapam, Ramanathapuram. So as we speak now, there are thousands of people who are in camps. But to explain it to my friends from Britain and especially to our honorable parliamentarians here, these camps are not technically camps. These camps are temporary housing arrangements where they stay, they are allowed to go out, stay outside for a night, come back. Their children can go to schools and universities across Tamil Nadu and study, even get jobs and work. But the only thing they don't get till now is the Indian citizenship. Now his question is of two parts. What about gentlemen in the camps? The government of Tamil Nadu pays them a certain honorarium every month in the camp where they are staying. Now the second part, what about citizenship to them? We know the citizenship of India, the act is very a complex act. The first major amendment we have done for a historical reason was recently after Modi ji has come to power, especially for the minority communities in Pakistan, minority communities outside our country, the three Muslim nations, where minority communities inside those three Muslim nations, where they were religiously persecuted, including Hindus. So the Citizenship Amendment Act recently that India has amended gives citizenship to those communities now. On record, the BJP Tamil Nadu, we are requesting the Indian government that our Tamil brothers and sisters who are housed in the camps also should be considered for citizenship. On record, BJP Tamil Nadu's demand and the Tamil society's demand and the Tamil political party's demand. I am very sure in the coming time the government of India is going to take a very reasonable call on that, because the Citizenship Amendment Act that happened now is for a demand that was 30-40 years old. Now the second Amendment Act that has to happen has to incorporate the Sri Lankan Tamils who are already into Tamil Nadu. Here we have to be extremely considerate for the children who are born in the camps. Thousands of children were born in the camps. They were not born on Sri Lankan soil. After their father and mother had fled the civil strife there, after entering and settling into Tamil Nadu, they were born here. They are big adults now, individuals now. So that is one category. The other category came in technically illegally, that is the other category. So each needs to be handled very differently, but overall, our position as Tamil citizens, Tamil civil society members, that our country has to take this into account in a very humane manner and give citizenship to the brothers and sisters who are also in the camps. So they are taken care well, educational standards is very good, they go out of camps, any small concerns, whatever they have brought it to our attention, including a driving license issue they were not able to get, which we solved it now. The only last remaining problem is the citizenship status, which I believe will also get solved in the future. Can you translate that?
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we've got a time constraint because we have to kind of conclude. I'm happy to speak to you after and translate, Uncle, if that's possible. Just because of time, we're going to have to move on. We have one last speaker with us. It's Satish Prabhakaran from Sangam. So I would now like to welcome you to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello everyone. Vanakkam. I'm Satish Prabhakaran from Sangamam UK. Just out of context from this topic, we just wanted to introduce Sangamam UK as well as an organization who are working with the Tamils here and probably will in future work with everyone here, all the Tamil community together. So with that vision in mind, I'll briefly take just a couple of minutes to explain about what Sangamam UK is about. Sangamam UK was founded with like-minded individuals as a part of HSS UK. This is with the mind of a platform for Tamil community who originated from different countries, predominantly from India, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Singapore, those areas across the nation, to learn, preserve, follow our rich traditional Tamil culture and values. What we do, our ethos and values are of 3 pillars: to promote, preserve and inculcate our culture, rich traditional Tamil culture with us as well as to our next generation. And the next one is Seva, which is like service. I'll touch upon how we do it, and then our Dharma. We've been, from the time we founded, we've been doing various activities. I'll just briefly touch upon a few, just to give a glimpse, and then probably we'll do furthermore as a bigger community together. We have been regularly doing something called Akanda Tamil Ulagam, which is like Global Tamil Conference. Physically we used to do before COVID, and then during COVID we did across the globe virtually, spread across 2 days at different time zones to adjust the time, where we had eminent speakers from Sri Lanka, India, and then US, everywhere, to come and speak about our Tamil culture. How do we promote? We had debates, discussions, and then there have been actions that's been taken to take it up. The next big one, which currently is happening in India, is like this whole year, India is celebrating 100th year of Harivarasana. For those who don't know, Harivarasana is a very important prayer for Bhagavan Ayyappa, who's in South India in Kerala. So that to celebrate the 100th anniversary of writing that poem, this whole Harivarasana has been celebrated. Eminent guest speakers and singers across the globe. We brought in eminent speakers speakers and singers from India last December. We did it across different places in UK, Harrow, Temple, Birmingham and other places, which again is to promote our culture and dharma there. The third one is we regularly do our annual camp, where we try to showcase our traditional cultures and values to our next generation and to the people who are not aware of it. Last year what we did is we brought in some traditional unknown games, actually the sports which we play literally in India, which we used to play in India also in certain places in Tamil Nadu. It's gone now, but we try to bring that here and showcase in the soil. Many of us have, many of the comments we have received is, oh, this is very good, we have seen it for the first time, including the Tamil people. So that's something we do. Other small things which we do regularly is to inculcate the Tamil learning attitude with our kids, like Tirthura reciting and Vechpoti. We also do International Women's Day regularly, again bringing in eminent speakers from India. Other thing which we did a couple of years back is to bring in the awareness about census. So census 2021 was very important. From the statistics we found, honest statistics we found, especially the South Asians in our community, people don't take interest in taking the census. But we took an effort to bring all the like-minded Tamil organizations together. We hosted a meeting with them, explained them the importance of census. We brought one representative from ONS itself to explain why we do have a census, what benefits you will get. So that was again, I believe, received very well. Other than that, we do, as I said, seva activities, which is like service-based activities. We do fundraising to support the people in India. Like we work with Manavasi Seva schools, where the school teachers we teach English from here. Other than that, we also raise funds for Arogya Bharati, which takes care of underprivileged people in Tamil Nadu again. Again, as I said, we have more activities to do with a bigger roadmap. We would like to work together with all the communities together, just using this opportunity to thank everyone and then join us. Together we can achieve more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're just going to conclude now, so I just want to say a huge thank you to Shri Annamalai for coming from India and for sharing your experiences and what you saw as a concern on your visit, including the poor educational standards, the fall in the Hindu population and the forced demographic changes, the archaeology sites being occupied by the military. This is again part of the structural genocide that the Sri Lankan government is doing, is to build Buddhist statues on top of the ruins of Hindu temples, and the Sri Lankan army occupying the agricultural lands. And thank you for also speaking about on a way forward on implementing Article 13, which is going to play a huge part on a way forward, especially between the relationship with India and Eelath Thamilar. Just to kind of touch up on some points that the General Secretary of BTF also mentioned, which was a way forward on how the UK and India can play a part is through arbitration, which should be led by the UK government, India and the United States. We should also be sanctioning perpetrators, and we will continue to call on the UK government until they do this, is to sanction Sri Lankan perpetrators who have been identified by the UNOISL report, to follow suit of the United States and Canada to do this, and for an international tribunal mechanism to be set up, whether that through be the ICC or a special ad hoc tribunal that's being set up, because in order for Tamils to get justice for the atrocity crimes, for the genocide, it has to happen through an international criminal court where the crimes have been recognised on an international stage and historical impunity is ended in Sri Lanka. And I hope that India is also able to continue with its connectivity projects by land, air and sea. And yeah, so thank you very much again just for being here today, and thank you all for all joining us. I'm just going to, Lord John Mann is also going to say some closing remarks, I believe. Just.
If I may say, the better organised you are, the more powerful you will be.
Thank you.
You have a message of both solidarity and friendship and vision coming from India, and this should be grasped and developed into a strategy both in this country and beyond, because the time for developing that strategy is absolutely now, and the opportunities are always there. Are we there to win victory, or are we there only to look backwards? We should do both. And therefore, I welcome British Tamil Forum organising this event tonight, and all of you for so generously giving of your time. So let us get better organised, and then we'll be more powerful. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you.
On behalf of British Tamil Forum, thank you very much for all of you coming in, and a great big thank you to Lord Mann for organising it, and Shri Annamalai, you are in the mother of all parliaments. Not only that, you're actually at the upper house, the House of Lords itself. So thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. Sorry we run out of time because I thank you, everything is.
If you, we're going to take a group picture. If you guys would like to stay, we're going to take it facing this way. So if you all don't mind standing up, and we'll take it this way. Yeah.